Morning, all. All right, so only the three games tonight in the National Hockey League. So preview and news go into one video. So we'll start off with the preview, starting at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. We got Montreal and the Philadelphia Flyers. The Montreal Canadiens 17, 17, and 5 overall, whereas Philadelphia's 20, 14, and 6. But over their last 10 games, Montreal's 5, 4, and 1, Philadelphia 3, 4, and 3. This is the first of three meetings. They'll meet again March the 28th as well as April the 9th. On the Montreal side, you got Nick Suzuki, 12 goals, 22 assists, 34 points. Really solid two-way play from Nick recently. Couturier, same solid two-way play from him for Philly. 10 goals, 17 assists, 27 points for Couturier. Then at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, the Minnesota Wild in against Dallas, and this is one to watch because Jesper Wallstedt makes his debut. I'm always like, is it Jesper? Is it Jesper? Depends on the player. I'll say Jesper. Jesper Wallstedt debuts for the Minnesota Wild, who are 17, 18, and 4, whereas Dallas is 23, 11, and 5 over their last 10 games. Minnesota's 5 and 5. Dallas is 6, 3, and 1. This is the third and final meeting. Dallas has won the first two. November 12th, it was an 8-3 win for Dallas. January 8th, it was a 4-0 win for Dallas. So for the Minnesota Wild, Eric Sinek, 15 goals, 11 assists, 26 points. Really solid overall play from him. Looks like he's going to hit about 30 goals this year. Marchment, 13 goals, 17 assists, 30 points. I don't talk much about Mason Marchment. It just shows the depth of scoring on the Dallas roster. A lot of players that could end up with 60-plus points, including Marchment. Then at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific. So this is a doubleheader on TNT for anybody who's wondering when to turn their TVs on and get it started. These usually start a little bit later than what they're supposed to. So while it says 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific, don't be surprised if it's around 20 after when the game actually gets started. So Vegas is 23, 12, and 5, and going into Denver against a Colorado team that's playing a little better than they are. Denver 26, 12, and 3. You know them as Colorado, of course, the Avalanche. The Avs are 7, 2, and 1 in their last 10 games, whereas Vegas is 3 and 7, looking to turn things around. And this might be the right opponent. On November the 4th, Vegas won 7-0 in this matchup. These teams will meet again on April the 14th. On the Vegas side of things, Marchessault, 17 goals, 11 assists, 28 points. His production's been fine, but again, Vegas needs something more than what they've been getting lately. Drouin has turned it around nicely recently. 9 goals, 12 assists, 21 points for Drouin. So yeah, he's had a nice bounce back, and he needed that, and he stayed relatively healthy this season as well. So let me know your winners in the comment section below. Moving on to news of the day. So Toronto's recalled Ilya Samsonov. I don't know if he's going to stay up or not. Hildeby's been returned to the Marlies. The question then becomes one of, would they play Samsonov? Are they not going to play him? You would think if they were going to call him up and play him, they might have done that before last night's game. Because again, if you want a goalie to get a win, you'd want to have him in there against San Jose, and Toronto's schedule is about to get more difficult. So, yeah, we'll see if Samsonov stays up or if this is just a move that's on paper and then he gets moved down before their next game, or however this is all going to work. Connor Bedard has had jaw surgery. He will be out for 6 to 8 weeks for the Chicago Blackhawks. As they've shown over their last couple of games, you put 18 guys in NHL jerseys. You pay them an NHL wage. They'll go out there and give you an honest shift or two, and they'll give you their best. Chicago really last night holding Edmonton to 15 shots. Not too bad of a game at all. So Chicago not being pushovers in the absence of Bedard, but he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks. We'll see how Chicago does. Trevor Zegras is being evaluated today. It's a lower body injury for him. It's unlikely he's day-to-day from the sound of it. It sounds like it's going to be more of a week-to-week situation, and I don't know if we'll have an actual timeline or not. But Zegras, who's just come back recently, just started playing like we know Zegras can, and now he's injured again. So we'll see how long he's out. The NHLPA has unveiled the program that they were hyping up not too long ago called First Line. And so it's a mental health program that's designed to perhaps prevent players from going into the assistance program and have players recognize the signs that their mental health is not where it needs to be before it gets to that point where they actually need to take that time off and to get things right. And it's basically a class that's designed so they can see the warning signs in themselves, their teammates, and family members, so they understand if somebody's in trouble, and then offer them help, this kind of thing. And so I think this is a good idea. It's meant to educate the players. There were 20 players that were involved in the pilot class, including Blake Wheeler, and saying that, yeah, this can work. This is great. And I agree. If there's any kind of support system in place to make sure that players don't necessarily need that time off, then I think that's a great idea. So we'll see how this goes. It would mean that, players who participate in this, players who talk in this, that's all going to be confidential, and we wouldn't hear anything about it publicly. I think it's a good idea, so we'll see how it goes, and if it does prevent other players from going into the player assistance program. And then a question coming out of last night's game between Edmonton and Chicago, and it's a question that honestly I think should be out there anyways. There are games this year that have ended 10 to 15 minutes later than they should have because of really long reviews. Now, goalie interference, whether or not a puck crossed the goal line, those are stoppages that it could take that long, right? It can take that long. It delays the game. It works out that way. It happens. However, for offside, if it takes that long to decide whether or not Draisaitl was offside, and the answer is that he was offside, it shouldn't have taken that 15 minutes. And that's really honestly what I think the NHL needs to look at is the time on this. It takes forever. It's gotten to the point now where so people always ask, what do you do when you're flipping around between the games? Well, if I see that they're going to a replay, I'm done going back to that game for a while. Probably for at least 5 minutes, because I know it's going to take a while. And so it's something to watch as every other game is rolling along and 5 or 6 minutes of actual in-game time takes place in every other game except that one that stopped to decide whether or not his toe was touching the line or whether or not the puck, see this one fraction of a second here, it looks like he might be a little bit offside, but then on that same fraction of a second from the other end, it looks like he might be onside. So we're gonna have to know that I honestly don't think offside was designed this way. And I've talked about this before. I don't know if you have like another line that you say, you know what, if it's within that line, it's onside. We're not even going to review it. Like I don't think this is what it was designed for. It was designed because of that really bad, wasn't it a Matt Duchene offside goal when he was playing for the Avs that this was designed to get rid of? I feel like these, well, it's a fraction of a millimeter offside. It's not like if that goal had been counted, you would see people going, well, clearly look at this shot. This shows it was clearly offside. Like it feels to me like there should be a time limit where they say, you know what, it's been 5 minutes. We don't have an angle that definitively shows that the call on the ice was wrong. We'll go with the call on the ice. And just end it at that because it just takes forever. And it's not like it was a fun game to watch last night anyways. That Chicago Edmonton game, that's yeah, I even told Yvonne, I said this game could be used as punishment for people. Just PVR this and make people watch it. So I feel like the time limit should be there when it comes to offside reviews because it makes games take a lot longer. And think about this from a broadcasting perspective. Let's just say during the Minnesota-Dallas game tonight, and I know I might be jinxing it by saying it. Let's just say there's a really long offside review here, right? And so the offside review here takes 10 minutes. You might be pushing back the start time for this game because this one has a 10-minute start. Because they've done it. We've seen that TNT's pushed back certain start times when the game preceding goes overtime. So if you have a 10-minute review, and then there's the other side too, if it's a 10-minute review and then the game goes to a shootout, right? So if you're watching on TNT, you may miss the start of this game. And that's happened where, and I've tried to go around it where I'm like, well, isn't there some way that I can see the start of this game? And the answer's been no. So I'm missing the start of this game because it's a doubleheader with this one. And TNT won't go to this one until this one's done. So if you have a really long review, you might miss the start of this game, which to me is counterproductive for the National Hockey League and just for the fan experience in general. So I think, honestly, I think for offsides it should be 5 minutes. 5 minutes should be the cap on how long it takes to review it. And if linesman and Toronto are still, back forth, was it offside, was it not? Then just let it count. Just let it count. Because clearly there wasn't a huge advantage gained if the guy was a fraction of a millimeter offside. there wasn't really any kind of a, especially too, the other part of it that gets frustrating is when that zone entry was like 40 seconds ago. So you're like, all right, so 40 seconds ago this guy was a fraction of an inch off or onside. We have to check. It's such an odd setup, and it does feel like it takes forever, and it's frustrating clearly to the players, the Oilers after the game, the coach after the game too, Chris Knobloch, not happy about how long that took, and then of course them feeling that it shouldn't have been taken off the board. I can't disagree. That review took way too long. So anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.